Welcome back to this latest episode of Japan's Top Business Interviews. I'm your host, Dr. Greg Story, President, Dale Carnegie Tokyo Training. My special guest today is Irina Menshikova, who is the president of Amway Japan. Irina, welcome.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you for inviting.
An absolutely spectacular presentation recently I attended at the American Chamber, and you went through your career and how it evolved and how things came about. Fascinating. And as I said to you before we went on air, this is a book in itself for you. Honestly, it's so interesting. So just to give the audience a bit of background, just walk us briefly through your career, because we're trying to get an idea of how is it that you are in Japan, running Amway in Japan? How did you get here? So let's start with that.
Yeah, that's a very interesting story. Just to manage the expectations of everyone who is listening us, this is my second year in Japan, so I'm not like for 15 or 20 years. And I'm the first female president for Amway Japan for the last 45 years of existence of that business. I joined during the existential crisis they faced first time in their 45-year history, so I came here to manage this crisis.
This is COVID we're talking about?
No, after the COVID, we have got a CA sanctions, which significantly impacted our regulatory. Yes, exactly. And I came from Russia. I was leading Russia, Ukraine, and Kazakhstan at that moment. So obviously, for last 5 years, I was managing these markets through opening the new markets in Central Asia, turning around the declining market, which is Ukraine and Russia, to growth, and then exiting the successfully growing market due to the geopolitical challenges. So Amway have exited the Russia. So that was a quite interesting last 5 years in my career within the Japan. In general, my background, I was born in Soviet Union, in Kazakhstan. I lived in Kazakhstan. This is where I faced the Soviet Union crash, obviously. Then I lived in Russia. I'm educated in UK. And now I live in Japan. So it's quite interesting diversity of the countries, I would say, as it is. For sure, I'm the only Kazakhstani president of American company in Japan, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And I think your career changed course a little bit from where you first started, and you sort of took a bit of a turn and went to another part. So originally, where did you start in your career?
Originally, I have started in Kazakhstan from a very traditional, big American company, which was a very good employer, invested a lot in education of the employees. And I'm UK educated, I have a ACCA, I have MBA, and now I'm doing my doctoral degree. But when the first time I got in touch with the direct selling model, small entrepreneurship opportunity, which corporations provide to success seekers or income seekers, I was so impressed with their dedication to execute their dreams. So I have decided I want to be a part of that model, helping other people live better life. So for me, that's my basically guiding principle in my life. This is my mission. If I can leverage my capabilities and my knowledge to help people live better lives through different dimensions.
And Amway means American way.
Exactly.
That's what the name stands for, right? So I just find it fascinating, Kazakhstan, Ukraine, Russia, Japan, all adopting the American way. So you had experience with Amway before you got to Japan, so you could see. But, I'm thinking that, European part of Russia is probably not that dissimilar from other parts of Europe and the mentality. And, it was still a communist country, but the difference with something like Japan and the American way in Japan, I think that's quite a big gap. So when you first got here, you were sent in to fix a regulatory crisis in the company and sanctions and being shut down and this sort of thing. So that's a really monumental task in itself. But there must have been lots of issues around motivation, people leaving the company, people worried about the future, all of the distributors worried about their livelihood because they depend on the mothership for that. So when you come in like that, how do you approach it? I mean, I've never had to come in and do that type of turnaround, almost catastrophic turnaround. How do you start? Where do you start with something like that? What did you do?
As I just came from one crisis of different nature to another crisis, so while we exited Russia, almost 50,000 of the small entrepreneurs have lost their business. So we help them to transit, obviously, to other countries as Amway is an international company, but they lost their business in Russia. And employees have lost their jobs. Obviously, we tried to find them also jobs in other countries, but majority have lost their jobs. So that from that type of the crisis, I came to Japan, where we need to reestablish the business according to the regulatory requirements, regain the trust of the distributors, rebuild the team's capability, and basically transform the business in a way that it's compliant and sustainably grow. So basically, I come to manage the crisis, but also then transform the business. And I'm sure that you will agree with me that's both very difficult task in Japanese culture.
And change is always a challenge in Japan, but in a way, ironically, we say never waste a good crisis.
Exactly.
So in a way, if you've got something really major going on in the business and you want to get change in Japan, this is one of the times where it's probably more possible perhaps than when things are normal and people they want to iterate, but they don't want to change much. So where you've actually, survival means change. Maybe in one way for people, that's easier to follow. I don't know. How did you find it?
Exactly. So back to your question, where did I start it? I started with the strengths which current situation have provided to Amway Japan. So the strengths, cultural strengths and business strengths. So exactly the strengths of that situation was that distributors and employees understand there is no way back. So they have such a sense of urgency for change that I do not need to go through the justification process. The only question is why. And that's a big deal in Japan already. Second strengths. Japanese, in general, very detailed, oriented, and perfect in execution. And this is what really helpful in this situation, because you can trust the performance. So they have the sense of urgency to change. Once they understand what's need to be done, you can if I have a patience, I trust the way Japanese execute. So this is the strengths which existed. Another strengths, this is a high contextual culture. It's a consensus culture.
How about Kazakhstani society culture? Is it similar? Is it
this
totally
is what
different?
Actually no, that's exactly what helped me. Kazakhstan culture is also highly contextual.
Is it? Okay.
It is.
So when for you're comfortable in that high context environment.
Not to that extent.
Not that
Japan
extent. Okay.
is very extreme. Okay. But let's say like my learning curve is a little bit shorter. So what have helped me is that in general, in crisis time, the strengths is being compassionate and very open and transparent. And being transparent in your vulnerability. Be transparent in your lack of ability, to deliver ideal results. So in Japan culture, it resonates very well. Yeah. This is what helps build the trust. If they see the strong leader who is strongly committed to help change the situation, but at the same time vulnerable, open, transparent, compassion, understand the challenges of others and open own challenges and build a partnership and consensus around and commitment in trying to find the solution, I found it very useful. This is what helped me to establish myself as a leader quite quickly in that cultural context.
Did you find that you lost people as a result of that? Because there may be some people who want a very strong, invincible superhero leader to come in, fix this up, get it going again, and someone who comes in from outside who's, I'm going to say, softer, empathetic, vulnerable, transparent. Sometimes with leadership, how transparent should we be? Because sometimes, like for example, during COVID, for many companies, it just destroyed their revenue streams. And if you're very transparent with your team about how bad it is, they may give up and quit and say, oh, this company's not stable enough for me. I can't support my family in the future. I should go and find a more stable company. So when we talk about transparency, I think there are limits on how transparent we can be. But did you find that? Did you find that for some people, could be key people, I don't know, they were expecting or wanting something different to what you're bringing and they said, no, I'm out, or you're able to win them all over?
In our case, employees have got a tremendous pressure because of the reputation and impact on the reputation. Like we had a lot of cases when they are not able to rent the apartment, or they are not giving a permission from parents to get married on the lady or man, who is employed by Amway. So to that extent, like it's a daily challenges. We did not lost employees. I will explain why. To my opinion, mostly because of the Amway. And the second reason, because of the change of the leadership. I will explain why. First of all, Amway is a value-based, mission-driven company. So what keeps us together is the set of values which we share and meaning which we want to bring into life. We want to help people live better lives. So we understand that it's a simple mission, not easy to execute. So we expect the difficult and easy times. And our hope, part of our founders' fundamentals, hope. So that's a set of our mindset. We always have a hope for better times. And this is what helped us in crisis. So during the crisis time, I was rooting my team back to a founder's fundamentals, which is freedom, hope, family, and reward. And acting based on their values,
hope,
family and reward.
So when I was going to ask you about values, because I was wondering, are these sort of American values and we're going to implant these on the Japanese and I'll have to adapt to our values, or, freedom, hope, family, reward sound very universal. So it doesn't matter whether it's Kazakhstan or Tokyo, that's something you're not going to have an ideological problem with any of those, I would think. Maybe the interpretation of what means freedom may be different, or what is important in reward may be different. But fundamentally, your brain intellectually can get around that. I can see that.
Same as mission. They're helping people live better life. We actually do a Stanford University research together with Stanford University research. What does it mean, living better life in separate countries? Now we do a initiated specific research in Japan, because it has a different meaning.
Is that research finished or ongoing? Is it published?
Japanese one ongoing. For some other countries, it's published.
Finished. Okay.
It's called Well for Life. So if you Google Well for Life, Stanford University, sponsored by Amway.
Wealth or well?
Well for Life.
Well for Life.
Yeah, Well
Stanford
for Life.
University, Well for Life.
For Life, yes.
Because that would be a fascinating study.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like, I don't hear about too many Stanford University studies about that type of thing in Japan. That would be fascinating to see that. So yes, when do you think it'll be coming out?
Japanese one, it will take a little bit of the time, like 6 to 12 months. It depends
some time out. Okay.
But the good thing is that methodology itself is well established, and they've already, like many countries, they have searched. It helps us also shape our strategy in a way how we can contribute to a society and to our customers and ABOs for them to live better lives. It basically defines the different levers, through which is the essential part of people getting a happier life. Like it's a physical health, mental health, society contribution, financial stability, a community. So all of these dimensions are well studied. So we are able to educate the people, provide the general education, how you can establish your lifestyle in a way, that you live better life. So that's back to mission, back to values. our values, our company have been established by two American guys who were struggling through traditional business models. So they wanted to develop a business model when everyone will have a freedom to be whom they want to be. Everyone will have an opportunity, to have a family. Whatever it means for you. You feel as a family in the business. Our ABOs does not feel as a competitors with each others. They partners, they are family. Our employees feel like Amway is a big family between the countries, inside of the country. Hope and reward, so that we recognize, we celebrate the achievement. We are not jealous to others' achievements, because we know that helping others, we help ourselves to become more successful, and always having a hope. That there is always better thing for us in this life. So that's a universal values which can be translated into the specific terms in every country. That's why Amway is so successful, is like more than 150 countries for now.
And one thing about Japan I've noticed with multi-level marketing type of businesses, that Japan tends to love, hierarchical structures. Certain people like to be guru. And I'm guessing one of the issues when you start getting a very powerful person who starts the business and they have a downline of distributors in their community, they become like little fiefdoms, They're powerful people. Everyone looking up to them. They're under the Amway umbrella, but they're like a god within their own little world, So I'm wondering, and this can happen with division heads in big companies. It can happen with branch chiefs. It can happen, Japan within the global orbit of international companies. How to make sure that those people at the peak of their own organizational structures follow the values and continue to uphold the values in the same way that you expect them to do that. Because I can easily imagine it could spiral off and they start to go off on some tangent. They now become, I'm guru, I have my own ideas, I have my own thinking, thank you very much, Amway, I'm going to take it a different direction. So how do you deal with that? Because I think Japan is susceptible to gurus. We saw that, unfortunately, with the sarin poisonings in the subway system here with everyone following a guru. So it has got that aspect to the culture. So how do you sort of contain that?
I believe that the American entrepreneurship spirit, which is the core DNA of our model, helps us a lot. So the way our compensation and recognition system is built, that everyone is rewarded for what they achieved here and now. So you can be a guru for many years, but if you stop performing, you are kind of losing your status. So we reward for specific sales results. So it's not for a number of the people, it's not how big is your organization, it's just about how you perform now as a leader. And of course, every ABO is independent entrepreneur. So basically, they can do what they want to do. Freedom is one of our founders' fundamentals. But also, one of our values is responsibility. And we have the ethical code in our organization, as well as we have a separate department tracking the compliance with the ethical rules. To my knowledge, among the all direct selling industry, Amway is the only company who have that level of commitment to the ethical compliance of the partners and employees as well. So we have a very high standard of that.
And is this something that you introduced when you came here, or was it existing before?
It was always existing with Amway.
Okay.
And this is a part of why employees, we did not lose an employees, because that's the guarantees that company has a zero compliance to unethical behaviors. So, and that company has a working mechanics in place how to manage it.
Because I can imagine, when you've got a lot of sort of organization within an organization, the distribution network, powerful people running that, all the loyalty heads up to them, not necessarily to Amway directly, although they depend on you for supply of the content of things they work on. But very hard I come from the karate world. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare because all these strong-willed karate people, they're in their organization, the head teacher passes away, the whole thing blows up, just blows up, and they all go off on their own and they do their own thing and no one will cooperate together. They all want to be the boss, it's a nightmare. And I just see that over and over again. And this is coming from Japan. The Japanese culture in the karate world is producing this problem. So it's not like the foreigners are creating it, it's coming from Japan itself. So how do you work that? How do you make sure that you can actually, you've got your compliance department, but to actually keep people on the straight path, to keep on the mission, to keep with you, to keep in step with you, because these are powerful individuals with big egos, I'm sure, and lots of money too, probably. So these are not, it's like people who coach pro sports in America, and the athletes are on millions of dollars. You're the coach. How to get these people to cooperate with you? It's not that easy, right? So how do you get them to cooperate with you, for you personally?
I believe that we are successful with that, and because, again, these people also join for a mission of Amway and for values. So this is what always root us back to who we are and how we execute everything. So every words, every action, every deliverables is delivered through 4 values, which we have: partnership, integrity, personal worth, and responsibility. So that set of values to me is quite well shaped. Every action of employees, executives, presidents, or ABOs. So it's not a short-term results. Like tomorrow I want to be on stage to be recognized, or tomorrow I'm as a president, want to get a certain sales achievement. Because my initial purpose of being here is helping people live better life by executing the needed actions, strategic initiatives through the framework of these 4 values. Therefore, in general, as you properly said, that's one of the risks of our business model. And I believe through a controlling a behavior, that's not possible to mitigate it. We have more than 600,000 of independent entrepreneurs. That the sanctions...
600,000?
600, and it's the smallest number, now we significantly lost after the 2 years of
this is in Japan?
In Japan.
600,000.
600,000.
Wow, it's a huge army of people, isn't it?
We're basically incubators of the small entrepreneurship, that's our core expertise. And
I went to a Delphi Network event this morning, and we had Mr. Shimada, who's the president of Toshiba, and he's talking about 100,000 people working for Toshiba. You've got 600,000, plus the staff. It's like huge scale, incredibly.
Independent entrepreneurs whom you cannot control a behavior. So the only way how to do it, empower them through the right framework for the right things. So, and this is what Amway was always strong in. And this is what was specifically important during the crisis time, which we have managed here. Root us back to what is right for our business and how we can reestablish that right.
So one of the things, I'm in a franchise organization. I own the franchise for a territory. And there's 200 of these franchises around the world. And we have Dale Cunningham Associates as the mothership. And we are in the front line. We are dealing with the clients every day. They are not. They are dealing with us. So you always have this gap in the texture, the taste, the feeling, the nuance between the people like us, franchisees, and our team dealing directly with clients, and then the franchisor who deals with us. There's always a gap. And trying to close that gap so that the people inside the company, the Dale Cunningham Associates, can really appreciate what the franchisees are going through and how to have a viewpoint or how to come up with things that serve their success. It's a very similar model to yours, except as a franchise model, yours is a little bit different distributor model. But in essence, the structures are quite similar. So how do you go about helping your team to try and get more taste, flavor, touch, nuance of what's going on for the distributors so they can be more effective in supporting them?
That's a very good question. In general, the way our model is built, we always say that we are B2B2C. So like basically our consumers, they are in direct contact with the company. So they buy our products from the website. So we directly work both with the customers and with our ABOs, business owners. And customers belong or part of the group of ABOs. So basically, for example, in our communication strategy, we develop a different type of communication depending on what is our target audience. Are we contacting you as a direct customer, selling whom we are selling the products? But we still know that a customer will never buy a product only because this is Amway product. He will buy it only because it's empowered by experience with the ABOs. So ABOs truly brings into the life the holistic solution for the customer to change the lifestyle and therefore creating the reason why to use Amway product. So if we, in our communication, we are not balancing that with the fact that enabler of our product usage is the ABO, we will not be successful.
So for people who don't speak Japanese, AGO means basically people doing the sales, right? They're actually in the distribution chain, they're getting people to buy directly from them and contributing that way.
That was an old model.
The
old model, we called it like a direct distributor. So we had the direct distributors who had the group of the customers to whom they were selling the products. Technology have changed the world for everyone, almost everyone. So every company have to adjust their model in order to be present in all the channels and in different platforms in order to penetrate a wider audience of the potential customers. We are as well. So we have to redevelop what value our ABO is bringing to the customer now. There is no value now in bringing the product and explain about it. You can find it, on the website. You can Google it, and it's much easier for customer to buy through the e-commerce platform. So then the core question, why ABO? Like a lot of customers, they understand why Amway, our products is so scientifically backed, like they know that we are pioneers in phytochemicals, but then the question is why ABOs? So, and we are, as a company, also understand that we cannot stay competitive and winning, let's say, the health segment, total well-being segment, where the food supplements, beauty products, play a significant role, or air treatment systems. So in order for us to win, we first trying to win it through a competitive and better science-backed product, like a more innovative product. So we deliver the product innovation, but it's not a sustainable winning model. Our biggest strength is our distributors. So they are the one who can truly make a unique of customer engagement, with Amway products, through building programs, lifestyle programs. So like our goal is not to sell the products to the customer as a business. Our goal and mission, help people live better life. It's not going to happen only because you are taking a food supplements. It's going to happen if you exercise, if you drink water, if you have an air treatment system, if you sleep well, if you think positively. There are a lot of dimensions, and we cannot do it, fix it only through our products. So we have a big strengths, our ABOs, who is building the lifestyle change programs. So they build a community where they educate and teach people how to change their lifestyle. And nobody can change their lifestyle being alone. It's only possible to happen in the communities. So this is our biggest strengths and winning factor in the current changed real world. So I always say our ABOs, they are not the sellers, because there is no winning model in being the sellers. Technology will always beat you. Yes, artificial enabled in technologies also, like applications, is helping you to change the lifestyle, but still the human community is more powerful in bringing the transformation and change in your life, because you need encouragement, you need education, you need support, you need the compassion, to the struggles and challenges you are facing, trying to transform your life. And in Japan, it's specifically relevant. Because it's specifically relevant because people are in this lonely, aging environment. All the segments of the population, single moms, young people who are struggling now, being employed for one company, they want to have some extra income. They want to have some time for communities. Now, or aging people who have money on most of the cases, have succeeded with the ambitious, but they need a community and they want to live a better, high quality life. So that's a power from which I believe we can bring to a next level and truly, through that, bring a value to a society and also help our business to develop.
You had experience leading before you got to Japan, and each time you go to a new location, one of the key jobs of the leader is to engage the team to follow you as the leader. So anything you found either before you got to Japan which worked well to engage people to follow you as a leader, which you found worked here as well, or things that you found worked somewhere else but you tried it here, it didn't work so well in terms of getting people engaged to follow Irina as the shacho, as the president?
That's a very good question. First, I should say that I'm on certain progress of that. This is my only second year. In Japan, patience is the one of the core words. So I'm still patient, especially, when it's a crisis time. So my team calls me a wartime president, and Peter, who was a president before me, they call him a peacetime president. So I had to adjust my leadership style when I came here, first to the crisis situation in which we were. But second, also to the cultural and social specifics which was here. And despite of the fact that I come from Kazakhstan, who has a high contextual culture as well, but the difference in engagement is huge for me, big. That was
What was so different?
In general, in Japan, people are not that optimistic in their assessments.
If you want to be successful as a leader, do the Leadership Training for Managers course. All companies need people who can both manage and lead. Leading people screams out for real skills in communication, dealing with all different types of people, being excellent at innovation, planning, delegation, handling mistakes, doing performance reviews really well, and inspiring and motivating the team. Do the Leadership Training for Managers course now in either Japanese or English. Leading is easy. Getting people to follow is the hard part. That is a great quote from Yogi Berra. Surprisingly, despite the complexities of leading here in Japan, everyone has to work it out by themselves. Foreign leaders want practical, applicable, expert advice. This is now available for the first time in history. Grab your copy of Japan Leadership Mastery on Amazon today and avoid the mystery, trial and error, especially the errors. The glass is definitely half full in Japan, right?
That's true. When you ask their feedback and give some score, you should always expect to get a score on the lower level, and they truly give you a feedback in terms of what could be improved. That's a big change.
I think there's a difference. Someone remarked to me recently about this. They said, look, in the Western world, you've got a scale of 1 to 10. People sort of start with 10 and work down. In Japan, they start with 5 and work down.
That's true. That's true.
That's a really different attitude to scale. So when you look at numbers like that, it can be very disconcerting sometimes. Oh my God, look at these numbers.
Yeah, can you imagine? I came from Russia, Ukraine, and Kazakhstan, despite of all their struggles which we had there, having Russia and Ukraine, managing from 2014, there was a tension between these two countries. So having these teams together and keep the engagement was already a struggling task. But still, I had the highest in Amway world engagement scores from employees.
Unbelievable.
So I came here, like as a well-established leader who is strong and compassionate enough, to deliver a very high level of engagement. Now I have the lowest engagement scores in Amway world.
You and everybody else have the lowest. I had a group of CEO, CFO, all the heads of departments of a global company, and they asked me to give a talk on business in Japan. And at the end, one of the questions came up from the HR person about these scores, engagement scores in Japan was so low. And why is this? And then I mentioned, well, basically all the scores in Japan are low. It's not your firm particularly that they're singling out. This is across the board. And I know when I used to work for the National Australia Bank, we go to Hong Kong, that was the hub. Terrible. You sit in the room, they put up the slides, and then you see engagement scores, world, over here, APAC down here, then the bottom of APAC, Japan. And then say, what's wrong with you? Why are the Japan scores so low? Why are people not engaged in Japan? And it's very hard to explain to people. But yeah, it's not just you. Trust me, it's everyone. So
yeah, that's true. But still, like I have my ambitions and hopes, to make it better. I'm not committing to a specific scores, being the best in Amway world or whatever. It doesn't make sense. I never compare myself with others or my team with others. I compare myself with myself yesterday and my team with my team yesterday.
I'll give you a hint. Have a good look at the translation of the questions into Japanese from English. Get someone who really understands both languages to have a good look at it, because often you find that these things are outsourced to a translation company who just translates it. But a lot of times the nuance is missing. And I'll give you an example, like a Net Promoter Score. One of the questions about Net Promoter Score is, would you recommend Amway as a good place to work to your family and friends? Virtually no Japanese want to do that. Why? Because they don't want to take responsibility. What if the person they recommend hates Amway? They're going to blame them. What if Amway hates them? They're going to get blamed, You've got to change the way of asking that question, And so we found this ourselves when we've actually gone through a few iterations on the sophistication of the translation to make it more of the essence of what the question wants to get at. Because sometimes the medium can skew the answer. Just a hint there. Have a look at the translation. But anyway, I take your point. In terms of, one of the things too is getting ideas from people. You've come from a crisis situation in the Soviet Union, Ukraine. You have experience, what's going on there. So when you get to here, I'm sure you've got a lot of ideas. And one of the dangers for us as leaders is sometimes, we're very passionate, we're very committed, we're driving hard, we're time poor. And then one day you sort of stop and you realize, all the ideas are coming from me. They're not coming from my team. And I've missed that part, and so to get, then you realize, I've got to get a better job of getting the ideas out of the team. And I've got to step back a bit. So what have we found works well to help ideas come from below?
Yes, that's a very good question. I am not an exception of that situation. I faced it too. Specifically in Japan, the two quotes which I keep telling myself, Irina, you have 2 ears and 1 tongue, and have a patience. Especially, my Russian DNA push me, rush quickly, revolution, go, run, and then you will figure out what to do. So all of that, this is what I really learned. What did I do? What did I do with my team? I was working on a different levels of engagement. So first I was working on how to engage with my team. Now, so obviously, I'm a new president for them. Like, I need to build the trust. It takes time. And I can accelerate it a little bit through building a safe space, giving the opinion and having one-on-one conversations. So I put all my efforts in deep one-on-one discussions, so that where I open my vulnerability, where I openly share my own concerns. So it really helps to build a trust.
In that sense, you've got a lot of people in the organization. You talk about one-on-one.
No, it's just about the executives. Then on the middle level of managers, I did a few strategic workshops where I brought them like a challenge, and they've been working on that.
Right.
And we carefully selected who among the executives will be there. There were no executives actually, and like I openly. Like my role have been defined as a listener only. So like that was first workshop. It was still half successful, I would say. They were not so open. They were more bringing, concerns, complaints, like not sure what to do. So the second workshop was like a miracle. They came, with all of the, proactive proactive proposals. Like basically, they tested it. They found that after the workshop, what we speak, we execute. So that actions, is the same as what we were speaking about. So that build the trust. So in next workshop, also, we've learned some lessons from what we did wrong, and they see that they are not penalized for the mistakes. Basically, we're recognized for trying to do new things, even if it's not successful. The most important that we learn from that. So the second workshop, like a complete turnaround, it's a shared accountability, proactive proposals, what to do, discussions between the people, no need, for executives to step in or somehow, like moderate it or accelerate it. So that was a second format. For the employees, I have around 700 together with contracted. So like a core employees, 250. Obviously, when it's employee meeting, so it's us speaking from the stage, they keeping silence. So I said, no, we should work on something to give an opportunity people to speak. So we organize 2 times a year. We do open dialogue meetings. So we split all the employees into 4 or 5 people group. We held it in the auditorium. So we make presentations about the plans and how it's being executed, how we come to these plans, how the middle management have built it. Because it's not executives who defined it. Through the strategic workshop, it's middle management who developed these plans with the inputs of these employees. And so then they discuss in small groups what concerns they have, but also what is their proposals to do. So, and then the final part, what they plan to do as an outcome of this discussion. So what they're going to change in annual plan, in the specifics actions, and what each of them as an individual employee is going to do. So the fact that we combine them into the small groups really help them to speak. Because the one representative stand up and saying, this is not my opinion, but in my group we discussed that we have this concern. So this is what we suggest to do. And this is what we decided we will change. So that I found that as a very effective way how to really give people opportunity safely express their opinions. On top, of course, I have a casual lunch with employees, so anyone can sign up twice a month for casual lunch and come with any questions which they have. Like food and drink.
And do people come?
It's always full. They started, the first lunch was like about who are you, we want to know you better as a person. So I was answering on their questions. Now they're coming with the proposals. Like you said this, but I want to suggest you should consider this and you should consider. So it's very productive, strategic discussions. So that's an opportunity for employees, young employees or lower level employees, give a direct input to executive level. Which is always struggle in Japanese culture due to its tendency, to respect the hierarchy. So that's one of the format how we do it.
We're sitting in a boardroom here. I mean, anytime you're in a group, and it's idea time, the people looking around the room, oh, Suzuki entered the company before me, so I can't speak before Suzuki, and Tanaka is older than me, so I can't speak before Tanaka, and Yamada is a higher rank than me, so I can't speak before Yamada, and Takahashi is a guy and I'm a woman, so I can't speak before him. And they're limiting themselves automatically because they're trying to keep that social harmony. But what sounds like you've managed to achieve there is to get some freedom from that and let people come up. But I think that point you made about trying things and then not punishing people if it didn't work, because in a lot of cases I think there's a sort of rhetoric or a statement about yes, we're going to try things and experiment, and then something goes wrong. The next thing, boof, the punishment is coming very swiftly. And as you said, people watch. I always say Japan is a country full of card-carrying boss watchers. They're all experts on boss watching, and they're watching you very carefully. How does she react to this failure? She said this, but this didn't go well. How does her face look? How does her body language? How does she acting publicly with this person? And they take their lead from that, I think. So we have to be, I think, as leaders, we've got to be very, very disciplined. Well, if you've got a short temper and you're impatient, and you're trying to drive hard, that's a really difficult cocktail to pull off in Japan. There's bound to be problems. But you talked about, psychological safety. You talked about people being engaged, people bringing ideas up. All of that builds trust. You came in at a time when there was a lot of lack of trust in the brand, lack of trust in the company.
Can I add the one very interesting story for me, which has happened with me when I moved to Japan, back to that discussion. So my first performance, my first speech at the biggest event which we run, we call it Leadership Seminar. So it's like around 4,000 people coming for that event. It's a big event. So I speak at the business session, first time introduce myself as a new president of Amway Japan. Obviously, that's a big change for our ABOs, for the employees. So my team coming to me and saying, can you please send us the dress code, how you will look on stage? And I'm kind of, come on, I'm like adult, I've been speaking for last 20 years, executive who is very experienced with that. Like, I'm not going to share that dress code. But finally, I sit and say like, okay, let's discuss. What do you mean? So like they said, oh, it's important, how will look the color on the stage, what message you are sending, and etc. So I said, okay, trust my intuition. I will work, on what message I want to deliver. I got your point that I'm sending a context, with my dress code as well. So I came on stage in a blue, very feminine dress, covered with a very male jacket, very good quality white jacket. So, and the feedback after the business session, I was getting, obviously, it was a very good session. I was sharing my personal story, specifically the story how we exited Russia. So a lot of people was crying because it's really heartbreaking situation. So I've heard a lot of feedback on obviously the power of that story, and how we managed it. But a lot of feedback I heard we like your style on the stage. You demonstrated your power, but also feminine, flexibility and vulnerability, such an interesting combination. So, and now even they have Irina fan club, who is having the same style.
Really?
They come for the meetings with me in the same style.
Really? I love
giving me the context that we support you, in being strong, but also being compassionate.
Well, I've done about 130 episodes of a men's classic wear blog. And it's called Fare Bella Figura, which in Italian means make a good impression. And the premise of this blog is that even before we speak one word, people are making some assumption about us on how we look. Therefore, don't let it be accidental. Determine the impression you want and choose what you want to wear accordingly as a very strategic thought. So that is very interesting, you know, that they are looking at you before you even talk about what happened in Russia or yourself or anything, and they're making an assumption about you. So that's very, I think, you know, there's particularly men, they probably don't, they just think a suit is a suit and a tie is a tie and it's clean, you wear it. But I think we've got to go beyond that. So I think this silent messaging or pre-explanation messaging, let's control that too. So I applaud you for doing that. And I was going to talk about trust here because, you know, you've Irina fan club. I love that. That says a lot about trust. And it says a lot about your ability to take a brand which there was question marks about the trust. Public, you know, humiliation in the media, you know, the brand being trashed by the media. And then to build that trust in the brand and then build a trust in the company and build a trust in you. So, you know, anything particularly apart from what we've already discussed that you found worked well to build a brand and build a trust brand for you?
First of all, I believe that in Japan, cultural specifics and social specifics, it's very important to acknowledge and take responsibility for whatever happened. It doesn't matter to explain, you know, to what extent you are guilty. Just accept the guiltiness. This is very important. And fully execute, you know, on fixing that issue.
It's like, just on that point. America is an incredibly litigious society, and they're in the courts immediately. And the legal advice in companies in America is always admit nothing.
Yes.
Take no accountability, no responsibility, admit nothing, because we're going to court and we'll sort it out in court. That's America. I come from Australia. We're not that litigious. We're probably more litigious than Japan, but we're not litigious like America. But this is an issue, you know, like you are coming into Japan and you are saying, well, let's accept accountability. Let's take responsibility, which is totally different to how they do it in the States. So I guess, you know, that was great that you could adjust here and not follow that typical American pattern of behavior. So that's a really good bridge to, I think, acceptance here. People are saying, well, they take accountability. Because, you know, if you turn up with something that's got a defect, well, first of all, you've got to apologize all the time. You've got to bring, you know, big, heavy branded bags of cookies, you know, things that can be eaten, so there's no bribery intention. You've got to talk about what went wrong, what you're doing to fix it, and why this is never going to happen again. And then you've got to apologize and apologize and apologize. So the Japanese way of looking at these things is quite specific around accountability. So it's interesting that you made that adjustment here.
Yeah, I believe that's the must to do step here. We also were getting recommendations of the legal department, you know, that we're an American company, not a Japanese company. So, and we should consider the risk related to the fact, if we acknowledge the guilty to the extent which we should not acknowledge, that it will be more difficult for legal to protect us in the court. My answer, my position is that, again, we are a value-based company. And our values is that we are helping people live better life. And if somebody had a bad experience with us, it doesn't matter what legal relations we have with them. We are responsible for that. So let's just acknowledge the fact, you know, that we take responsibility for that situation and we take actions. So yes, as you said, you know, in a way it's being in a way which rituals are built around that, or in a way how it's expressed to the Western mind, it may look a little bit different than not how we get used. Also, you know, like what interesting to say here, in Western world, we tend to acknowledge the fact, yes, the crisis has happened, and now let's go forward. And here, there is some period, you know, like when you should really stay in this guilty mode and heal yourself and demonstrate, that you truly build a basis for compliance. So this is also the resonance which we have got when like a global colleagues is coming here and they are saying, yes, we had the crisis, but let's look for the growth. And Japanese is not that year. They are still in that living through that crisis. Yeah. So this is what I believe also require respect. So having a patience for a recovery.
And that's, I think, when I hear you say that, I'm thinking to myself, probably the Japanese point of view is they want to see sustained sincerity. Words are cheap, yes, we're sorry, let's move forward. Have you really absorbed the lesson? Are you really serious about this? Are you sincere about this? And I think that can be like we tend to, as you say, mentally we want to move on, move forward. Okay, we've put this in the past, let's go forward. But they don't want to give it up so easily. So that's interesting insight there. And what about culture? You bring the American Amway culture to Japan. Then you have Japanese culture because the employees are all Japanese, the shippers are all Japanese basically. Then you have Irina culture. So how do you think about building culture in Japan for Amway?
It's also a very good question because this is the number one topic for me. I'm a true believer that culture is strategy for the breakfast, as it was said before me. And this is what I was strong in my previous role. So I build a culture of people's empowerment that allows me to basically not to be a controller, and this is what I believe really became the activator of the transformation which we have made on the previous markets. So I am good as a leader. I am good in the environment where I'm surrounded by the same smart or even smarter than I am people who have their own reason why they're passionate about the strategy we're executing, and they have a freedom and passion to do it. So my role as a leader to create for them an environment in which, every day they can become better version of themselves and make a business better version of themselves, and they will believe that what have been achieved is achieved by themselves. So I'm not the type of the leader who is able to control. That's my weakness. So in some situations where you need to control, I will be a bad leader. But in those situations where the sustainable transformation processes need to be initiated, I know that I have a strength in that area. So my challenge was when I came here to Japan that, of course, Amway does not have a culture of traditional Japanese company. Amway has Amway culture. And that's, we started our conversation from that. That's the reason why we did not lost Amway employees, because they are true ambassadors of that culture. They love it. This is what their set of values as well. However, a majority of my team is Japanese, so it has a lot of, it's specific combination of Amway Japanese culture. And because Amway business in Japan exists for 45 years. So it's old, mature, sophisticated market with a lot of stability in the past. So it's not a culture of drive. It's not a culture of transformation. There is a very little appetite of making a lot of changes initially. And little and not a big level, not enough capability, transformation capabilities. So that's why, like I said, this is my number one topic now, how to build a different set of capabilities in a way that we are able, through the processes, organizational structure, and set of human capabilities, to set up a sustainable transformation processes in our model. Seems like every business needed now. The external environment is not stable anymore. The technology everyday challenges. Artificial intelligence is the next challenge to almost every business model. So being able, constantly operationalize incremental innovations, and transform the core of your business model seems like one of the core capability of every business to stay competitive. And for that, you need a relevant culture. So I don't think this is a specific struggle for Amway or specific struggle for Japan or specific struggle for Irina. It's just all together.
One of the things too is when you have change, you have a group of people who've been capable, working well in a certain environment, and then the environment changes.
Mm-hmm.
And in a lot of cases, some of those people are forced out, and other people are brought in, because often some people are very good at one thing, but they're not so great at another. And so, or if in Japan's case, you can't just move people out. Incompetence is not a legitimate reason in Japan to get rid of anyone. So as a leader, we have to try and find ways to work with what we've got. You can't say, oh, my toolkit not working, I'll get another toolkit, which will be a much better toolkit. This is the toolkit. You've got to work with this toolkit and make it work. So, thinking about what you just said before and that change and the challenges going forward, how do you see that working with the existing team to help them grow, develop, adjust, or whatever it's needed?
Yeah, from one side, what is good, Amway was always like that. So we always value more soft capabilities rather than knowledge and hard expertise. So, and we have a quite sophisticated framework how to develop the talents. And this is what helpful in Japan reality as well. Therefore, in culture change and in capabilities development, we put a focus on how to develop these soft skills so that people love to learn, so that they does not feel fear or threat, with the need of changing every day and every day becoming a better version of you yesterday. Because that's the only way how you can be able to do new things. We keep developing competencies of live to serve. So being focused on how to help others. By helping others, you help yourself. And lead with heart. So that truly listen, be compassionate, understand team, treat everyone equally, accept that we are all different. So that set of capabilities, I believe, is the best guidance in how then adjust a new role, and gain the new knowledge. And we do have enough patience to help people grow, to give people time to grow. So in our case, it's not that much a Japanese regulatory environment which drives our approach in more like internal development of the human capabilities rather than acquiring them from the market. But it's more like Amway initial culture.
I know you've only been here, nearly coming up to 2 years, so I know it's not long, but based on what you've seen so far, based on what you've learned so far, if one of your friends rang you up and said, Irina, I'm being sent to Japan to run my company as a country head, how can I be effective as a leader in Japan? What would be some simple advice you'd give them?
Simple.
What would be some complex advice you'd give them? Let's go there.
Okay, let's start with the simple. I would say, first of all, come and truly learn the language and culture.
Okay.
Yes. So even that a lot of people is telling me technology now is able to translate. Why do you need? Studying the language truly helps understand the way of thinking.
Oh, yeah.
and what is important. So it's such a fascinating, to be honest, way. I study now Japanese almost every day. That's how my morning starts. This is my morning ritual. And every time I'm excited. It's like a miracle, so interesting. I didn't enjoy it that much with the English, to be honest. Second, and studying the culture, really very important to better understand this country. Second, listen. Listen what people tells you. And ideally be able to translate it, in meanings, because usually they say something different than what they mean. So that's another skill. But as a primary focus, listen and follow the recommendations. This is a very powerful, especially in crisis time. I came and I was getting a lot of recommendations from a top organization what to do. And then I hear completely different insights from my team. And very often as a Japanese, they're not explaining why. So it's very easy not to trust. The Americans is very clear in their communication. Here is justification for you. This is the guiding principles we consider. This is the deliverables we expect. This is the risk you need to manage. So it's easy to follow that. Very logical, easy to follow this decision-making process. And then you see your Japanese colleagues who is giving, the best argument they can give Japan is different. But everyone is saying, Russians is saying they're different. So it's so easy not to follow, but I recommend trust the Japanese way. So I had some concerns. Okay, if I follow their recommendations, we're American company, we're not Japanese company. So where is this balance of being a right American company in Japan? So, maybe it's too obvious thing, but I believe listening to people, trust the people, and safe way experiment will be the best way how to find that tiny balance that you are not losing your identity, but you become relevant in Japanese, very unique social, cultural, and economical reality.
How about some complex ones?
Complex. It's another conversation for next 2 years, hours. So it's a separate podcast.
That could take another couple of hours on that one. And so just to finish
But I
off,
can say it's worth to try that challenge for sure. Yes. For me, that's the most exciting period in my leadership journey. After my wonderful experience, with Russia, Ukraine, and Central Asia, I was thinking coming to into a stable, well-developed economy and manage a business here, probably it will not be exciting, should be quite boring, it's so exciting here.
Lots of exciting stuff in Japan, that's for sure. It's always, when I first got here, my professor, he was teaching me at Griffith University doing modern Asian studies, and he came back to Japan. He told me, he said, Greg, there's never a dull moment in Japan. And I remember him telling me that. And it's so true. There's never a dull moment. There's something always happening here. In terms of, just to finish off, a couple of things. One is, have you built up any professional habits that have served you well in your career?
In general, not only for last 2 years.
Not
in
necessarily
Japan.
for Japan, but just some people, it might be meditation or getting up early or keeping a journal or being very organized in their day planning, or there's some professional habit they've come up with that served them well. How about yourself? Do you have anything like that?
Oh, I have the whole system, which was evolutionalizing through a different stage of my career. Obviously, as many other people, I started with the efficiency model of the brain Tracy, at my earlier stage of career. So I became a guru in efficiency, how truly build the highest level of the efficiency in everything I do for my career and for my family and for my friends. So I was known, as a leader everywhere. So everything is planned and managed and delegated and recognized then, the same system, leadership model I used, in every aspect of my life, believing that it will give me success, and it made me successful. But at a certain moment, I feel that I am destroy myself. Because efficiency, it's a little bit of the illusion. So doing a lot efficiently is not always the best result. So, and then I learned how to surprisingly find the time when I'm not delivering a traditional efficiency. So I build into my life regimens where I care for myself too. Like, to be honest, like, maybe because I'm from Soviet Union, my priorities was like first society, then family, and then myself. We always say like ya in Russian means me. So, and ya is the last letter in alphabet. So we always say like me is the last letter in alphabet. This is the culture which we have. So, and in my leadership style, I was building everything to prioritize society, business, and family, and then I'm the last. So approximately like maybe more than 10 years ago, I struggled for the first time where I reconsidered the priorities. So I said, if I am happy, then my family will be happy, business will be happy, and society will be happy. So I'm the number one priority. And at that moment, but for that, you need to understand what is important for you. So for me, as I said, important, help people live, other people live better life. So as that's a core, like a meaning for me, it helps me, to build my life and others people's life in a way that I can achieve it. So I do practice mindfulness practices, which is scientifically proven to help stabilize, helping a resilience. I'm certified mindfulness practitioner. Actually, I start the club here in Amway to run the mindfulness practices here. So my morning that I always track a sleep. I never prioritized sleep in the past. I always was thinking, like, clean up the email is more important, than sleep. But last few years, like, sleeping is the number one priority. Mindfulness practices, meditations in the morning. So to have like a quiet, my own time. Usually I practice the yoga, breathing, and meditation. Then have a regular exercises is critical. So I started to do a strength training. I never did it before, but now I understand that muscle mass is critical for bone density. So therefore, on top of like running, I was running marathons in the past, not anymore, but I still love running. On top of that, I added the strength practices, and that's a huge time commitment. Mentally, that was so difficult for me to decide that approximately like 6 hours a week I spend for a sport. I always tried to find, if I run, then I listen some podcast, Now, no, I listen to nature.
Oh, interesting.
I go through a yogi park. I live here nearby, and I listen to nature. Because again, if before I would run for an efficiency, how I can do everything together. But now I understand that it's not guarantee you a better result, but it guarantee you, like being burnout. So my rituals, like in the morning, go sleep at the same day of the night, wake up at the same day of the morning. In Japan, I wake up very early, not like in Russia, probably because this is a sunrise country. Then have some time for myself for yoga, mindfulness practices. Then usually I do some, I drink a warm water. I have a probio and fiber. I have some protein because this is a good start for my digestion system. I have a coffee, but I love coffee, but I have a coffee like not earlier than the first 1.5 hours in order that my hormone system can adjust to a proper wake up. Then I do some exercises, and then I start, I can say like quite late morning, for the president. Like my meetings usually start at 10. Quite rarely I have a meetings at 8 or at 9 because I made the commitment for myself. So in the past, it was not like that. Now also if I travel, I make sure that I have a time to reset up myself, reestablish myself. In the past, I was like, I always travel, like we all travel as a crazy. This is a business world. This is a leader's specifics. But I understand that if I does not set up myself properly after the travel, then I'm not able to deliver the results.
Yeah, not a good way of doing things. What about any advice for females who are already leaders or who want to become leaders here in Japan? Any advice for them? What things you think would help them to advance in their careers?
What I found similar back in Russia and in Japan, surprisingly, that basically female advancement is driven by mostly society expectations, historical expectations on the female role. So like in Russia, 75% of the people believe that woman can be only a mom or a wife. Including the woman itself, it means they believe in that, so that they are not capable to do both roles together or anything beyond of that. In Japan, it's also very high expectations on the woman to be a mother, good mother and wife. It means that woman itself, the females itself, very often does not have a confidence or belief in their capability to be something beyond that role. So educational program and any type of the programs which helps to build up the confidence in that is truly effective. Like back in Russia, we built a female entrepreneurship program where we were educating a woman in maternity leave who have an inspiration or idea to open their own startups, how to open the startup. So purely through the educational efforts, we educated them on everything. So psychological support, legal, marketing, sales, like all the messages, all the aspects of how to start your business. 85% of these women opened the business. More than 10,000 women for 4 years of the program. So it have been recognized by UNESCO as one of the most effective program and recommended for launch in other developing countries to advance the female entrepreneurship. So basically, I would recommend a female leaders, first of all, work on your own motivation, aspiration, and confidence. That's the major problem. And this is what I see in Amway as well. In Amway, we're quite good with diversity-wise, if we speak about the gender, not about the generations or multicultural diversity. But in terms of the genders, 62% of our total population is female. However, the advancement to the leadership roles are significantly lower. And it's not driven by the fact that company does not support it. It's driven by the fact that a lot of females does not have a passion, interest in it, or confidence in it.
And often that's because they don't want to have that type of what they perhaps see as an imbalance in their life of domination of work and no free time, no ability to have a family or spend time with the family. And they see their bosses, their male bosses, having a miserable time working, ridiculous hours and under so much stress. And they go, well, really, do I want to do that? Maybe not. So yeah, it's a tricky one. So in terms of entrepreneurs, I get that, but what about staff? People who are not entrepreneurs, they work for the company, they want to have a career in Amway, they want to be you, they want to be the first Japanese female president, for example, Any advice for them?
We have in Amway the female club, so we do provide the support, in order to build the confidence and in order to build the capabilities, and also in order to build the capabilities how to balance your life. Because you're right, that's the major concern. How should I sacrifice my other part of my life, so because of that. And I believe it's changed everywhere in the world and in Japan specifically. Like young families need the money now. So a majority of the families cannot afford, have only one income earner. Second, companies are much more flexible. Like we have a 3-day office attendance policy, and we have a family days. We allow children to come to the office. We allow to have a flexible hours. We allow to take leaves, when you need. So like I believe that a lot of companies, like very open on how to accommodate the challenges which is young families is facing. So my only advice, like I don't think there is something fundamentally broken in Amway specifically for that, or in many other foreign companies at least. I'm not sure about the Japanese companies. So my only advice is, again, truly work on what is important for you in your life. Majority of us is driven by the concept inherited from the childhood. We do not know what we like, what we're passionate about. So just be brave to follow your passion and have a hope that life will support it. You will get the opportunities for that. I believe that's the most important, to have a right motive why to do it. And then everything else, capabilities, opportunities will be found, will be built.
Well, on that hopeful note, thank you, Irina. Fantastic discussion today. Yes, fabulous. Thank you. So please join us again for our next episode of Japan's top business interviews.